Hey guys, so over the next few videos I'm going to be answering the questions which you sent to me about a week ago. So today's question comes from Panic at the Apollo, and they ask a twofold question. The first is, do I think this is going to be the year where Linux takes Windows over as the primary operating system? My answer, as it was last year when you asked that question I believe, is the same. It's no. Linux is for certain people, but it's not for everyone. It's basically Linux as an operating system, or as a collection of operating systems, is kind of like putting your computer into hard difficulty mode. What I mean is, with Linux, even though most distributions of Linux are free to download and use as you wish, many people will still tell you that there's no such thing as a free lunch. Nothing comes really for free, and that is true with Linux. It's just the price of Linux isn't financial, but you still have to invest yourself in knowing more about how your computer works, more about sort of adjusting and making adjustments so that Linux works on your machine should you need to make those adjustments and so forth. And you do need to go into the command line from time to time. So I do get quite annoyed when people say that just about anyone can pick up and use Linux nowadays, because that really just isn't true. It's still an advanced operating system, and sometimes Linux people sort of forget that, because once you're in the Linux world, once you have a Linux operating system that you're very comfortable with, it seems easy to use, it seems user-friendly, but that's because you spent the last couple of months setting it up to your very explicit parameters, and you have a completely customized system. So of course it's going to seem easy to you, and once you've worked out all of the discrepancies within the system, of course it's going to be as stable as all hell. But not everyone is willing to invest the time in learning how to do that with their computer. So like I say, a good analogy is that loading Linux onto your computer is kind of like hard difficulty mode. You get much more out of your computer, but then again you are investing more of your time and intellect into your machine in the first place. So, and as a slight addendum to that, SteamOS is possibly going to make quite a big dent in the Windows market, possibly for those who are, or at least in terms of a dual boot. So I can see that in the short term a lot of people aren't going to be throwing out their Windows in full exchange for Steam, especially at this early stage where not every game that's available for Windows is going to be available for SteamOS. So there is definitely going to be people will be dual booting before they actually before they actually chuck out Windows and completely turn over to SteamOS, which is a distribution of Linux. However, until that day comes, we could be seeing Steam creeping onto more and more desktop PCs of people who wouldn't traditionally be Linux users, because Steam is designed for more types of people. It's designed for a wider audience. It's designed to have mass appeal. So you're not going to have to tweak all those bells and whistles that you would do with a usual Linux system. So Steam is certainly, it could very well be the most popular Linux distribution by the end of the year. Now I checked on the rankings table at DistroWatch to see where Steam currently was, and it's currently, for the last 12 months, so the last average of a year, which is how I believe they work it out, or it might be 6 months, it's 101st place. So it's just outside the top 100 bracket. And it's been rising steadily if you break down the averages into months. So SteamOS is on its way up, and it's only going up at the moment. So it's definitely going to get into the top 100 Linux distributions. And yeah, like I say, it could come completely out of nowhere and become the most widely used Linux distribution. Now, Android isn't considered a Linux distribution because it's a fork of Linux. I think it's a fork of Linux, and it's been distorted and changed so much with proprietary software and proprietary techniques that it's not really the Linux that it was. It's about as Linux as Frankenstein is to being human, I guess. It would be the incredibly geeky analogy for that one. But yeah, Android, of course, is again a version of Linux for the mass market, of course, on tablets and whatnot as well. I wouldn't actually mind seeing Android be brought out for the PC in terms of a freely distributed OS, a proprietary freely distributed OS. But I think that there would be something in that. I think that there would be some kind of market for people who don't want to spend the £100 every time a new version of Windows comes out, the people who don't use their computers as extensively as a lot of Windows Office users might. And Android is a nice light mobile operating system, and you could bring it to the desktop with very few conversions to the user interface. The nice big buttons make it great for people with visual impairments and so forth. So maybe I'd like to see that in the future. Maybe I'd like to see Android as a budget operating system for the PC. I think it would work really well. At the moment, of course, it's optimized for ARM architectures, but it's not the biggest project in the world to make it AMD and Intel compatible. So anyway, I'm kind of going off on a bit of a tangent. In short, no, Linux will not become the one-size-fits-all desktop distribution that a lot of people claim that it, well, at times already is. It's not. SteamOS will take a big chunk, a nice big bite out of the market, and the thing about SteamOS is that it's not taking a bite out of other Linux distributions, it's taking a bite out of the Windows market share, which more Linux distributions need to look at capturing. Ubuntu, I would imagine, might be the Linux distribution, the desktop Linux distribution that actually takes it. I'd like it to be Linux Mint, but Ubuntu has the marketing budget, they're developing the mobile phones, and it's quite possible we might see Ubuntu as a mobile operating system in the future, and then Mint could very well be the desktop sort of equivalency of it. There's a lot of uncertainty in the future of Linux, but it's generally looking pretty damn good. But like I say, I kind of have a feeling that Ubuntu it really wants to move into the mobile market because it doesn't feel comfortable competing directly with Windows. I still think it does. I think Microsoft is on the downhill, on that, and I think Ubuntu it's really the only direct Windows challenger for desktop machines, whereas it's going into a mobile market, which, if we're all honest, is saturated. And not only is it saturated, but Android is a great operating system. It really is. It's proprietary, and I know a lot of people have a problem with that. And I know Ubuntu can bring things to mobile operating systems that that Android and Windows OS and whatever the fuck Mac's running, it can offer things for advanced users, and I suspect that's the kind of mobile phones it'll be using, advanced users. And if you can get into Ubuntu repositories, Ubuntu repositories, and have full access to them through a mobile device, I could very well be looking at running maybe a tablet with the Ubuntu operating system. I don't know. Anyway, I am absolutely rambling here, and I know that Panic at the Apollo, possibly Dylan, are going to be like the only people that are watching this to the end. So, hi guys, I guess it's just us three. Okay, so the second body question was, do you have any experience with flexible tripods? Sadly, I don't. I've only seen them in use a couple of times, but when I have seen them in use, I've seen them, people generally pretty happy with using them. That being said, though, I have a decent amount of experience with clamp stands. Okay, so this is possibly going to be a little difficult to see because the background kind of makes it a little bit. But here we go. As you can see, we've got a G-clamp here with a little sort of indenty groove there. You can pick these up on eBay for next to nothing, a couple of euros, a couple of pounds, a couple of dollars. It's really and it is cheap. Like, you can feel by the plastic that it's not particularly well put together. If you want to spend more money on these kind of things, then I'm sure there are more expensive models available. I just bought this so that I could clamp it on, so that I can clamp a camera onto things when I need like a B-roll footage, and I go and get the A-roll footage, and I keep the B-roll camera rolling. It works really great for that. Basically, it's got your 1/4" tripod thread on the top there, which you got a little thing there, and then it's fully flexible, which is great. Actually, the actual sort of neck on it is actually really quite good quality. It's the G-clamp that's the cheap thing. It also it also has some arms in, so you can turn it into a tripod. For what it is worth, like I say, cheap as chips, bit of a bargainer, served me well. And you can strap it onto tree branches. What I like about the clamp that the flexible stands don't seem to have is that it gives you a solid grip. On the side of desks, you can stick it up there. I don't know why I'm showing you how a clamp works, but there you go. As easy as that. To be honest, if you were serious about using it, I possibly would consider perhaps getting a more expensive model. I only stick cheaper cameras on this. Anyway, that's about it for me today. Thank you very much for answering questions. I will be answering more questions in due course. That's about it for me today. Until next time, I've been Chris Ware, and you've been awesome. Take care now.